A fleet of sleek, silver ships hovered silently in low orbit above Earth, their reflective surfaces glinting in the sunlight. Inside the flagship, a being known as Overseer Tylax observed the blue-green planet through a transparent viewport. Tylax's species, the Vylor, were a race of herbivorous beings who prided themselves on their advanced civilization, one that had eradicated conflict and predation millennia ago. Their mission was to observe and assess lesser-developed worlds, deciding whether their inhabitants were suitable for inclusion in the galactic community. Earth, at first glance, appeared promising, a vibrant biosphere teeming with life and a species on the cusp of interstellar travel. Yet something about the humans unsettled Tylax. Their eyes, sharp and calculating in recorded images, held a peculiar intensity. The Vylor had encountered predators before, beasts that hunted out of necessity, but humans carried an unsettling air of deliberation. "Are you certain we should proceed with contact?" asked Selric, Tylax's second-in-command, whose delicate, fern-like fronds quivered with apprehension. Their historical records suggest a violent nature. "Violence is a trait of many developing civilizations," Tylax replied, his tone measured. "Our task is to guide them beyond it, not recoil in fear. Besides, their technological advancements indicate intellectual potential. We cannot dismiss that." The decision made, Tylax ordered a small diplomatic vessel to descend. Its stealth shields rendered it invisible to the planet's primitive detection systems. The landing site had been carefully selected, a sprawling research complex hidden deep in the Nevada desert, where human scientists were said to study extraterrestrial phenomena. Tylax believed this setting would allow for a controlled first interaction. As the Vylor delegation materialized within the complex, their presence triggered alarms. Uniformed guards with weapons drawn surrounded them in seconds, their stances tense but disciplined. At their forefront stood Dr. Elena Carter, the lead astrophysicist, her piercing gaze scanning the newcomers. She stepped forward, lowering her hands in a calming gesture toward her team. "I am Dr. Carter," she said, her voice steady despite the surreal encounter. What are you?" Tylax stepped forward, his elongated limbs moving with deliberate grace. "I am Overseer Tylax of the Vylor Collective. We come in peace and seek dialogue with your species." Dr. Carter's eyebrows lifted slightly, but she maintained her composure. "Then you'll understand why we're cautious. We've had our share of surprises in the past." Tylax inclined his head. "Caution is wise. We commend your vigilance." He paused, then added, "We seek to understand your kind, to learn about your world. Perhaps in doing so, we may share our knowledge in return." The tension in the room eased slightly, though the guards kept their weapons trained on the aliens. Carter nodded. "Very well. But understand, Overseer Tylax, humans don't always react kindly to the unknown. You'll need to tread carefully." In the hours that followed, a cautious exchange of information began. The Vylor provided insights into their non-violent society, their advanced technologies, and their interstellar travels. The humans, in turn, shared carefully curated snippets of Earth's history and culture. At first, the Vylor were fascinated by humanity's artistic and scientific achievements. Tylax was particularly impressed by the humans' ability to innovate under pressure, a trait rare among prey-like species. But as the conversation deepened, darker truths emerged. Dr. Carter explained humanity's evolutionary path, how early humans, armed with little more than sharp tools and fire, had hunted creatures far larger and stronger than themselves. She recounted the rise of civilizations built through conquest and the wars that had shaped borders and ideologies. Tylax listened in silence, his fronds twitching uneasily. "You speak of violence as though it is ingrained in your history. Does it not trouble you?" Carter hesitated, choosing her words carefully. "It does, but it's also part of what made us. Survival required strength, strategy, and, yes, aggression. Without it, we wouldn't have thrived." Tylax glanced at Selric, who looked equally perturbed. "And now? Do you not strive to move beyond such instincts?" Carter folded her arms, her expression thoughtful. "We try, but the world isn't always kind. Sometimes, we have to fight to protect what matters." It was then that a monitor in the room caught Tylax's attention. A documentary was playing silently, depicting humans engaging in acts of both incredible bravery and stark brutality. Soldiers in camouflage moved through war zones. Scientists in pristine labs developed life-saving vaccines. Athletes pushed their bodies to the limit in grueling competitions. The juxtaposition was striking. Tylax couldn't help but marvel at the humans' complexity. For every act of destruction, there seemed to be one of creation. For every moment of selfishness, an equal moment of sacrifice. But what disturbed Tylax most was a section focusing on the United States. The documentary highlighted the nation's history of global influence, military power, and economic dominance. Words like superpower and apex predator flashed across the screen. What does this mean? Tylax asked, pointing to the term. Carter glanced at the screen and then back at the alien. It's a metaphor. An apex predator is a species at the top of its food chain, with no natural predators of its own. It's a way some describe nations or individuals who dominate others. Tylax's frown stiffened. And this, America, does it see itself as such? Carter's lips pressed into a thin line. Some might say so. It's a nation built on ambition and competition, for better or worse. It's a big part of why we've achieved what we have. But it's also why we've made mistakes. Tylax fell silent, his gaze fixed on the screen. He had encountered apex predators on other worlds, creatures whose dominance left ecosystems in delicate balance. But humans, particularly Americans, seemed different. Their predatory nature extended beyond survival. It was intertwined with their identity, driving them to innovate, explore, and, when necessary, conquer. As the Vylor prepared to leave the complex, Tylax couldn't shake a growing unease. The humans were unlike any species he had encountered before. They were predators, yes, but also creators, builders, and dreamers. It was a paradox that defied easy categorization. Returning to his ship, Tylax addressed his delegation. We must tread carefully. These humans are more complex than we imagined. They are not just predators. They are something more, and perhaps something far more dangerous. Selric nodded solemnly. The Vylor fleet remained in orbit, their sleek vessels hidden from human sight. Inside the command chamber of the flagship, Overseer Tylax convened his delegation, their bioluminescent fronds pulsing with the muted hues of unease. The encounter with humanity had left an indelible impression, one that lingered in the air like an unanswered question. Tylax's voice, steady but tinged with concern, cut through the silence. They are not as we expected, he began, pacing before the shimmering holographic display of Earth. Humanity's history is a tapestry of contradictions. They are capable of both astonishing creation and appalling destruction. We must understand how such duality shapes their path forward, and whether they pose a risk to the greater galactic community. Selric shifted uncomfortably, his fronds quivering. Their predatory nature is undeniable, Overseer, and yet they have not succumbed to it entirely. Could it be that their evolution is incomplete? Perhaps they are trapped between their primal instincts and their aspirations for peace. Tylax paused, considering this. Or perhaps, he said slowly, they have embraced both as essential parts of their existence. We must look deeper. Their study began in earnest. Using the Vylor's unparalleled data-gathering systems, they delved into human records. Millennia of history unfolded before them. Grainy footage of ancient battles, vivid accounts of revolutions, and sweeping narratives of exploration and conquest. The delegation watched in silence, absorbing the story of a species that had clawed its way to dominance on a planet rife with competition. The first patterns were clear. Humanity had thrived because of its ingenuity and adaptability. Their ability to turn obstacles into opportunities was unparalleled. Yet this same drive often led to conflict, wars over resources, ideologies, and power. Every triumph seemed shadowed by a cost. Every step forward balanced precariously on a knife's edge. What fascinated Tylax most, however, was humanity's relentless curiosity. Unlike other species the Vylor had encountered, who often sought equilibrium within their ecosystems, humans seemed compelled to push boundaries. They explored the depths of their oceans, the vastness of their skies, and now, the edges of space itself. It was as if no frontier could contain them. But the more they studied, the more unsettling questions arose. The United States, a nation frequently spotlighted in human records, stood out not only for its power, but for its cultural influence. The Vylor reviewed countless depictions of Americans in literature, film, and historical documents. Words like freedom, ambition, and dominance surfaced repeatedly, painting a portrait of a society that saw itself as exceptional, destined, perhaps, to lead. Tylax requested a deeper analysis of the nation's history, and soon the delegation was immersed in events that shaped the American identity. They observed the Revolutionary War, the westward expansion, and the Industrial Revolution. They saw the devastation of the Civil War, the heroics of World War II, and the tensions of the Cold War. Each chapter revealed a people unafraid to fight for what they believed was theirs, sometimes with devastating consequences. Selrick voiced what many were thinking. They're relentless. Even their mistakes seem to fuel their progress. How do they reconcile such contradictions? Tylax's gaze remained fixed on the display, now showing the moon landing. Perhaps they do not reconcile them. Perhaps they thrive because of them. Humanity's strength lies in their willingness to embrace conflict, both external and internal. It is both their greatest asset and their greatest danger. The delegation's growing unease deepened when they turned their attention to human advancements in weaponry. Images of missiles, tanks, and nuclear explosions filled the chamber, stark reminders of humanity's capacity for annihilation. Yet alongside these images were stories of medical breakthroughs, humanitarian efforts, and technological marvels. Tylax's fronds dimmed as he spoke. A species that can destroy its world as easily as it can heal it. What role do such beings play in a galaxy that values balance? The answer was not forthcoming. Instead, the Vylor shifted their focus to human culture, hoping it might reveal what history and warfare could not. They explored music, art, and literature, marveling at the depth of expression humans achieved. One piece, in particular, captured their attention, a painting depicting a solitary figure standing atop a mountain, gazing at a vast, uncharted wilderness. Tylax studied the image for a long moment. "This is humanity," he said finally, "a predator that dreams of horizons. They are driven by a need to see what lies beyond, even if it means leaving destruction in their wake." Selrick hesitated before responding. "And yet they dream. They hope. Perhaps there is something to be learned from that." Before Tylax could reply, an alert chimed through the chamber. It was a transmission from one of their observational probes stationed over a human city. The probe had intercepted a live broadcast, a speech by a world leader addressing a crisis. The words were laden with determination and resolve, promising unity and resilience in the face of adversity. Tylax listened intently, his fronds glowing faintly. "Their leaders inspire them to rise above their instincts," he observed. "Perhaps that is their strength, the ability to choose a higher path, even when their nature pulls them toward conflict." The transmission ended, leaving the chamber in silence once more. Tylax turned to his delegation, his expression unreadable. "We have seen much, but our understanding is far from complete. We must engage further with these humans if we are to determine their place in the galaxy." Selrick nodded reluctantly. "Do you believe they can change, Overseer?" Tylax's gaze returned to the holographic Earth, spinning slowly in the void. "Change is not the question. The question is whether they should. Humanity's contradictions may be what make them uniquely powerful and uniquely dangerous. We must tread carefully, for in their duality lies the key to their destiny, and perhaps our own." As the Vylor prepared for their next step, a sense of anticipation hung in the air. The humans had proven to be unlike any species they had encountered, a blend of predator and dreamer, destroyer and creator. The path ahead was uncertain, but one thing was clear. Understanding humanity would require more than observation. It would require trust, risk, and perhaps a willingness to confront truths the Vylor had long avoided. Tylax stood before the viewport, watching Earth's vibrant colors shimmer against the backdrop of space. "Prepare the envoy," he said softly. "The time for observation has ended. Now, we must see humanity for what they truly are." The Vylor's next encounter with humanity was not through cautious observation or distant study, but direct immersion. Tylax, accompanied by Selric and a small delegation of emissaries, descended to Earth for a carefully arranged cultural exchange. The location, a sprawling university campus in California, had been chosen by both parties for its reputation as a hub of innovation and diversity. The humans greeted the Vylor with a mixture of curiosity and formality. Dr. Elena Carter, once again serving as the human liaison, stood at the forefront, her expression tempered but welcoming. Around her were students, faculty, and government officials, all eager to witness this unprecedented interaction. Cameras captured every moment, broadcasting it to millions around the globe. Tylax stepped forward, his tall, elegant frame casting a shadow over the podium set up for the event. "We come as learners," he began, his voice resonating through the translation devices. "Your species has shown us much already. Yet there is more we seek to understand, not only of your world, but of the spirit that drives you forward." Dr. Carter nodded in acknowledgement. "And we are here to share, Overseer. It is our hope that this exchange will deepen our mutual understanding." The day unfolded with carefully curated presentations from both sides. Human representatives showcased advancements in technology, art, and philosophy. The Vylor, in turn, demonstrated their mastery of energy manipulation, environmental harmony, and societal organization. At first, the exchange was cordial, even inspiring. The humans marveled at the Vylor's ability to sustain their civilization without conflict, while the aliens were intrigued by humanity's capacity for creative problem-solving. Yet, as the discussions turned to history and culture, tensions began to surface. A student, young and brimming with curiosity, asked Tylax a question that sent ripples through the room. "You've studied us for some time now. What do you think of the way we approach competition? Our drive to win, even when it's unnecessary?" Tylax's frons shifted faintly, betraying his discomfort. "It is unique among the species we have encountered. Your competitive nature has propelled you to great heights, but it often comes at a cost. Resources, lives, and even the integrity of your ecosystems are sacrificed in the name of progress. Is this not a troubling imbalance?" Dr. Carter intervened, her tone measured but firm. "With respect, Overseer, it's not simply about competition for its own sake. It's about striving for better, pushing boundaries, overcoming limits. Without that drive, we wouldn't have cured diseases, reached the moon, or unlocked the secrets of the atom." Selric, standing at Tylax's side, interjected. "And yet, in unlocking such secrets, you have also created weapons capable of annihilating your entire species. Is that not a contradiction?" The room grew quiet, the weight of the question hanging in the air. Carter met Selric's gaze, her expression resolute. "It is, but contradictions are part of who we are. We live with them, learn from them, and in some cases, rise above them. That's what makes us human." Tylax observed the exchange intently, his mind churning with thoughts. The humans' willingness to confront their flaws head-on was as disconcerting as it was admirable. Unlike the Vylor, who had purged conflict from their society, humans seemed to embrace it as a means of growth. It was a perspective that defied everything he knew. Later that evening, the delegation was invited to observe a human tradition, a college basketball game. The aliens were seated in a VIP section, their luminous forms drawing stares from the crowd. Tylax watched as the players took to the court, their movements swift and precise. At first, he struggled to understand the purpose of the game. The players competed fiercely, their faces etched with determination. The crowd roared with every successful shot, their energy electrifying the air. Yet it was not the outcome that fascinated Tylax, but the dynamics on display. The way the players worked together, adapting to the flow of the game, even as they vied for individual success. Selric leaned closer, his frons trembling with curiosity. They compete even in their leisure. Is this not exhausting? Tylax considered the question before answering. Perhaps it is, But it also reveals something profound: their ability to find joy in struggle. For them, competition is not merely a means to an end, but an expression of their very nature. As the game reached its climax, with both teams locked in a tense battle for victory, Tylax found himself unexpectedly moved. The players' relentless determination mirrored humanity's broader journey, a species constantly striving, reaching, and pushing forward, even when the odds were stacked against them. When the game ended and the winning team erupted in celebration, Tylax turned to Dr. Carter, who had been watching the Vylor's reactions with quiet amusement. "You find meaning in this," he said, gesturing to the court. She smiled faintly. "It's not just a game. It's a microcosm of who we are. We compete, we celebrate, and we grow, together and as individuals. That's humanity." Tylax nodded slowly, the pieces of the puzzle falling into place. Humanity's predatory instincts were not confined to hunting or conquest. They permeated every aspect of their lives, driving them to achieve, to excel, and above all, to survive. As the delegation prepared to depart, Tylax stood alone for a moment, gazing at the night sky. The stars above seemed closer, their light more vibrant. He realized that understanding humanity would require more than observation. It would demand a willingness to confront truths that both fascinated and unnerved him. Selric approached, his voice hesitant. "Do you believe we can coexist with them?" Tylax's gaze remained fixed on the stars. "I believe we must. For better or worse, humanity represents something we cannot ignore, a force as unpredictable as it is extraordinary. The question is not whether we can coexist, but whether we can learn from them without losing ourselves." As the Vylor ship ascended into the heavens, leaving Earth behind, Tylax felt the weight of a decision that had yet to be made. The humans were more than predators. They were a species that defied simple classification. And in their complexity lay both the promise of a new alliance and the potential for unforeseen consequences. The journey was far from over. The Vylor delegation returned to their flagship with a trove of data, impressions, and lingering questions. The humans had proven themselves to be more than a curiosity. They were a paradox, one that demanded careful consideration. Tylax convened a private council in the ship's observatory, the room illuminated by the gentle glow of starlight refracted through crystalline walls. Selric, seated closest to the overseer, shifted uneasily. They are both astonishing and alarming. Their adaptability, their drive, it's unlike anything we've encountered before. Yet it's impossible to ignore the danger they pose. Tylax regarded him with a measured expression. Danger and potential are often intertwined. We must determine if humanity is a threat to be mitigated or a partner to be embraced. Selric hesitated. And what if they are both? Before Tylax could respond, a chiming sound interrupted the meeting. An aide entered, their fronds pulsing with urgency. "Overseer, a situation has developed. A human military exercise near the North American continent has escalated. One of our observational probes has been detected and targeted." The room fell silent, the weight of the announcement sinking in. Tylax straightened, his luminous gaze hardening. What was the nature of the probe's detection? Did it interfere with their operations? "No, Overseer," the aide replied. The probe maintained passive observation. However, its presence triggered a response. Human aircraft were deployed, and it was nearly intercepted before we activated its cloaking systems. Selric's fronds stiffened in alarm. They reacted as if provoked. This confirms their territorial instincts. They may view us as adversaries, regardless of our intentions. Tylax raised a hand, silencing further speculation. We cannot jump to conclusions. Their reaction may have been one of caution rather than aggression. Still, this incident complicates matters. Contact their leadership immediately. We must clarify our intentions. The aide nodded and departed. Tylax turned back to his council, his voice steady but firm. This development underscores the urgency of our task. Humanity's capacity for conflict is undeniable, but so is their potential for cooperation. We must tread carefully. Hours later, the Vylor delegation established a secure communication link with representatives of the United Nations. The holographic interface projected the image of Secretary General Elena Watanabe, her expression a mixture of wariness and professionalism. Tylax began the dialogue with characteristic diplomacy. Secretary General, we regret any unease caused by the presence of our probe. It was not our intention to disrupt your operations. Watanabe's gaze was steady. Overseer Tylax, while we appreciate your clarification, the incident has raised concerns. Many nations are questioning the nature of your presence here. They fear surveillance may escalate into interference. Tylax inclined his head slightly. Your caution is understandable. Allow me to assure you that our mission is one of observation and understanding, not intrusion. Humanity's resilience and ingenuity are of great interest to us, and we believe there is much we can learn from one another. Watanabe's expression softened, but only slightly. Understanding is a two-way street. If we are to trust your intentions, we need transparency. What exactly do you hope to achieve here? Tylax hesitated for a fraction of a moment before replying. We seek to comprehend how a species so deeply influenced by competition and conflict has achieved such remarkable progress. Your duality, your ability to embody both creation and destruction, is unprecedented. It may hold lessons for the broader galaxy. The Secretary General studied him carefully. And if you find that our nature poses a threat, what then? The room grew tense, but Tylax's tone remained calm. We are not here to pass judgment, Secretary General. Our role is to observe and engage. The course of humanity's future lies in your hands, not ours. However, it is our hope that by sharing knowledge, we can foster a mutual understanding that benefits us both. Watanabe nodded, her demeanor softening further. Then perhaps the first step is collaboration. We've seen glimpses of your technological capabilities, but we know little about how they work. If you're willing to share, it could build trust between us. Tylax considered the proposition, his fronds shifting subtly. A reasonable suggestion. In return, we would ask for access to your historical archives and cultural records. Understanding your past is key to understanding your present. The Secretary General smiled faintly. I believe we can arrange that. I'll coordinate with Dr. Carter to facilitate the exchange. As the communication ended, Tylax turned to Selric, who had remained silent throughout the exchange. Trust is a fragile construct, Tylax said quietly. But it is one we must build if we are to navigate this uncertain path. Selric's fronds trembled with apprehension. Do you truly believe they will trust us, Overseer? Their history suggests otherwise. Tylax's gaze drifted to the holographic projection of Earth, its vibrant blues and greens shimmering against the void. Trust is not a matter of belief, Selric. It is a matter of choice. Humanity has shown that they are capable of choosing hope over fear, even in the face of great adversity. Perhaps we must choose the same. As the Vylor ship orbited silently above the planet, preparations for the cultural and technological exchange began in earnest. Yet beneath the surface of diplomacy lay a growing sense of unease. The incident with the probe had cast a shadow over the proceedings, a reminder of the fragile balance between curiosity and caution. Tylax found himself returning to the observatory late into the cycle, the stillness of the room a stark contrast to the flurry of activity elsewhere. He stood alone, staring at Earth, his mind heavy with unanswered questions. Humanity's contradictions were both captivating and confounding. They were predators who dreamed of peace, destroyers who built wonders. To understand them fully would require more than observation. It would demand immersion, risk, and a willingness to confront the unknown. Tylax's voice was barely above a whisper as he spoke to the empty room. What lies at the heart of your duality? Humanity. And will it be your salvation or ours? The stars offered no answers, their light distant and indifferent. But Tylax knew that the answers he sought would not be found in the heavens. They lay on the planet below, in the hearts and minds of a species unlike any the galaxy had ever known. The exchange between the Vylor and humanity began with an air of cautious optimism. Delegates from both sides gathered in a secure facility on Earth, a sprawling complex nestled deep within the Swiss Alps. The location, chosen for its neutrality and state-of-the-art infrastructure, symbolized the delicate balance they sought to maintain. Tylax stood at the forefront of the Vylor contingent, his elegant frame radiating a calm authority. Beside him, Selric observed the proceedings with a wariness that had only deepened since the probe incident. Across from them, Dr. Elena Carter and Secretary General Watanabe led the human delegation, their expressions carefully composed. The first day of the exchange focused on cultural presentations. The Vylor shared holographic projections of their homeworld, a breathtaking expanse of crystalline cities harmonized with lush, bioluminescent forests. The humans, in turn, showcased their history through art, music, and literature, offering a glimpse into the triumphs and tragedies that had shaped their civilization. Yet beneath the surface of polite discourse, tensions simmered. The memory of the near confrontation over the probe lingered in every interaction, a silent reminder of how easily misunderstandings could escalate. As the second day unfolded, the focus shifted to technology. Vylor scientists demonstrated their advanced energy systems, capable of drawing limitless power from the fabric of space itself. The humans countered with their achievements in quantum computing and medical innovations, highlighting their ingenuity and resourcefulness. Tylax observed the humans' reactions carefully, noting their genuine curiosity and eagerness to learn. Yet he also sensed an undercurrent of suspicion, a fear that the Vylor's technological superiority might one day be turned against them. During a break in the proceedings, Tylax approached Dr. Carter, who stood by a panoramic window overlooking the snow-capped peaks. "You seem troubled," he said, his tone gentle. She glanced at him, her expression thoughtful. "Not troubled exactly, just contemplative. This is a momentous occasion, but it's also a precarious one. A single misstep could undo everything we're trying to build." Tylax nodded, his fronds shifting in acknowledgement. "The path to understanding is rarely smooth, Dr. Carter, but I believe it is one worth walking, even when the footing is uncertain." Before she could respond, an alert sounded throughout the facility. Security personnel hurriedly converged on the central chamber, their movements precise and purposeful. Tylax and Carter exchanged a glance, then followed the guards to the source of the commotion. In the chamber, a holographic feed displayed footage from a distant region of Earth's atmosphere. A Vylor scout ship had been intercepted by human fighter jets during a routine reconnaissance mission. The situation was escalating rapidly, with neither side willing to back down. Selric's voice was sharp as he addressed Tylax. "This is exactly what I warned you about. Their instinct for confrontation will be their undoing, and ours if we're not careful." Dr. Carter stepped forward, her tone urgent. "We need to de-escalate this immediately. If shots are fired, there's no telling where it could lead." Tylax's fronds trembled as he considered the situation. "Agreed. Open a direct channel to the scout ship and the human command center. We must defuse this before it spirals out of control." The next moments were a blur of tense negotiations. Tylax spoke with calm authority, urging the Vylor pilot to stand down while Dr. Carter coordinated with her military counterparts to recall the fighter jets. The standoff ended without violence, but the damage had been done. As the room settled into an uneasy silence, Secretary General Watanabe turned to Tylax, her expression stern. "This cannot happen again, Overseer. If your ships cannot respect our airspace, there will be consequences." Tylax met her gaze evenly. "Your concerns are valid, Secretary General. I will ensure that all Vylor operations are conducted with greater transparency moving forward. However, I must ask for the same commitment from your forces. Mutual trust requires mutual effort." Watanabe nodded reluctantly. "Agreed, but trust is built through actions, not words. We'll be watching closely." As the day drew to a close, Tylax convened a private meeting with his delegation. Selric wasted no time voicing his concerns. "This incident proves what I've been saying all along. Humanity's nature is too volatile. Their fear will drive them to act preemptively, even against allies." Tylax's voice was measured but firm. "Their fear is understandable, Selric. We are an unknown presence, and history has taught them to be cautious. But fear can be tempered with understanding. We must not abandon this endeavor. Selric's fronds twitched with frustration. And what if understanding isn't enough? What if their instincts override their reason? Are we prepared to deal with the consequences? Tylax regarded him for a long moment before replying. Preparedness is not the same as inevitability. Humanity's contradictions are their greatest challenge, but they are also their greatest strength. We must give them, and ourselves, the opportunity to rise above them. As the meeting concluded, Tylax found himself alone once more, staring out at the stars. The events of the day weighed heavily on him, a stark reminder of how fragile the balance between curiosity and caution truly was. For all their flaws, humanity possessed a resilience that Tylax could not ignore. They were a species defined by their contradictions, capable of both destruction and creation, fear and hope. Navigating this uncertain relationship would require patience, wisdom, and above all, faith in the possibility of growth. Tylax's voice was barely audible as he whispered to the void. You are more than predators, humanity. But what lies beyond that truth? And will it bring us together, or tear us apart? The stars offered no answers, their silent vigil unbroken. But Tylax knew that the journey toward understanding had only just begun, and the stakes had never been higher. The tension between humanity and the Vylor had reached an inflection point. Despite the efforts of both sides to build bridges of trust, the shadow of fear loomed large, threatening to unravel the fragile progress they had made. The diplomatic exchange had resumed, but the atmosphere was charged with unease. Every word weighed carefully, every gesture scrutinized for hidden intent. Tylax stood at the central dais of the meeting chamber, his luminous eyes scanning the room. The Vylor delegates were arrayed behind him, their fronds trembling faintly with the currents of emotion. Across the table, the human representatives sat in resolute silence, their expressions a mix of guarded determination and wary curiosity. We find ourselves at a crossroads, Tylax began, his voice calm yet resonant. The incidents of the past days have tested our resolve and highlighted the challenges of understanding one another. Yet, I believe these trials have also revealed the strength of our shared purpose. Secretary General Watanabe nodded but said nothing, her gaze steady. Dr. Carter, seated beside her, leaned forward slightly, her posture indicating a readiness to engage. Tylax seized the moment to continue. The Vylor have observed countless civilizations across the galaxy, he said, his tone tinged with both awe and gravity. Some rose to greatness, others fell to ruin. Humanity is unique among them, a species defined not by its limitations, but by its contradictions. You are predators, yes, but also creators. You wage war, yet you dream of peace. This duality is both your greatest strength and your greatest vulnerability. Dr. Carter's voice was soft but firm as she replied. That duality is what makes us human, Overseer. It's not something we can separate from ourselves, nor should we. The question is, can you accept us for what we are? The room fell silent, the weight of her words hanging in the air. Tylax met her gaze, his own expression inscrutable. Acceptance is not the issue, Dr. Carter. The question is whether humanity can accept itself. Can you reconcile the parts of your nature that seem to be at odds? Can you find harmony within your chaos? Watanabe interjected, her tone measured but resolute. Overseer, humanity has faced countless trials throughout its history. We've endured wars, disasters, and existential threats, yet we've always found a way to survive and to grow. If you doubt our ability to reconcile our nature, then you underestimate us. Tylax inclined his head slightly, a gesture of acknowledgement. Your resilience is undeniable, Secretary General. But resilience alone will not secure the future. It is not enough to endure. One must also evolve. That is what we seek to understand, whether humanity's evolution will lead to harmony or destruction. Before Watanabe could respond, a sharp chime interrupted the proceedings. An aide entered the chamber, their expression urgent. Overseer, Secretary General, we have an emergency." The room tensed as the aide continued. "A Vylor reconnaissance vessel has detected an unidentified object approaching Earth's orbit. Its trajectory suggests it is neither of Vylor origin nor human-made." A murmur rippled through the room, the implications sinking in. Tylax's fronds stiffened as he addressed the aide. "What do we know about this object?" "Very little, Overseer," the aide replied. "It is emitting no recognizable signals, and its structure does not match any known designs. However, its speed and trajectory indicate it will reach Earth's atmosphere within the next 4 hours." Watanabe turned to her military advisor, who had joined the delegation as an observer. "What's our response protocol for unidentified objects?" "Madam Secretary, standard protocol is to intercept and assess the threat level. If necessary, we'll neutralize it before it reaches the surface." Dr. Carter looked at Tylax, her expression a mixture of concern and resolve. If this object is neither Vylor nor human, it could represent an entirely new variable. "We need to approach this carefully." Tylax nodded. "Agreed. A hasty response could escalate the situation unnecessarily. We must act, but with precision and caution. I propose a joint task force to intercept the object and determine its nature." Watanabe hesitated, then gave a curt nod. "Very well. We'll coordinate our efforts. But understand this, Overseer. If this object poses a threat to Earth, we will prioritize the safety of our planet above all else." "Of course," Tylax replied, his voice steady. "The safety of all is our shared priority." Preparations began immediately. A combined team of human and Vylor specialists was assembled, their skills and technologies merged in a rapid and unprecedented collaboration. The team's mission was clear: intercept the object, assess its nature, and neutralize any potential threat. As the task force launched into space, the tension in the control room on Earth was palpable. Tylax and Watanabe stood side by side, watching the live feed from the intercept team. The object, now visible on the monitors, was a dark, irregular mass, its surface pulsating with a faint, eerie glow. "This is unlike anything we've encountered," one of the Vylor scientists murmured. "Its energy signature is anomalous." The team's lead, a human astronaut named Commander Liu, spoke over the comms. "Approaching the object now. No signs of hostility, but the energy readings are spiking." As the task force drew closer, the object suddenly emitted a burst of light, its glow intensifying. The control room erupted into activity as alarms blared and data streams flooded the monitors. "Energy surge detected," a technician called out. "It's destabilizing." Tylax's voice cut through the chaos. "Commander Liu, withdraw immediately. The object is volatile." But before Liu could respond, the object pulsed again, sending a shock wave through the surrounding space. The feed went dark, and the room fell silent, the weight of the unknown pressing down on everyone. Tylax turned to Watanabe, his expression grim. "This changes everything." Her gaze was steely as she replied, "Then we'll face it together. Whatever comes next, we'll be ready." The uncertainty of what lay ahead was daunting. But for the first time, humanity and the Vylor stood united, their shared resolve shining against the encroaching darkness.